There is a moment just before dawn when the sea is at its quietest. The wind softens, the waves stretch out like glass. And for sailors, especially those who have been at sea too long, that silence can feel almost alive. It's in moments like these that the stories begin. Stories of voices drifting across the water, soft, melodic, almost familiar. Not loud enough to alarm, but just enough to pull you closer. And if you follow that sound, if you lean just a little too far over the edge of the ship, you might see her. Not a monster, not at first, but something beautiful, something impossible, something that shouldn't exist, but does, or at least has been believed to for centuries. The idea of mermaids, or sirens, isn't tied to one place or one culture. They appear across the world, across time, always slightly different, but always the same at their core. In ancient Greek mythology, sirens were not even described as half fish. They were something else entirely. Creatures with the bodies of birds and the faces of women, perched on rocky cliffs, singing to passing sailors. Their voices were said to be irresistible, not just beautiful, but knowing. They didn't just sing songs, they sang your song. They called to your memories, your regrets, your desires. And the sailors, unable to resist, would steer their ships toward the sound, crashing against the rocks, never realizing the danger until it was too late. But over time, something changed. The image of the siren softened. The feathers disappeared. The sea took over. And the creatures became what we now recognize: mermaids, half woman, half fish. Not perched above the sea, but bound to it. And maybe that shift tells us something important. Because fear alone doesn't last, but fascination does. There are records, real ones, from sailors who claim to have seen them. Christopher Columbus himself wrote in 1493 that he spotted 3 mermaids off the coast of Hispaniola. He described them as not as beautiful as they are painted, noting that their faces were more masculine than expected. It's easy to dismiss that now. Many historians believe he likely saw manatees, large marine mammals that, from a distance, could vaguely resemble a human form. But still, he wrote it down. And he wasn't the only one. Throughout the 1600s and 1700s, sailors from Europe, Africa, and Asia all reported similar encounters. Figures in the water, watching. Sometimes swimming alongside ships for miles. Sometimes disappearing the moment they were noticed. And almost always just out of reach. But what's more interesting than the sightings is the feeling they describe. Because again and again in journals and logs, there's a pattern. The sailors weren't just startled, they were drawn in, calmed, hypnotized, as if whatever they were seeing wasn't just visual, but emotional. And that's where the myth deepens, because sirens were never just about what you saw, they were about what you felt. There's a theory, not widely accepted but quietly persistent, that these stories weren't entirely imagined, that perhaps somewhere along the line, sailors encountered something real and simply didn't have the language to explain it. The ocean is still one of the least explored places on Earth. We've mapped more of the surface of Mars than we have of our own sea floor. Entire ecosystems exist in darkness, under pressures we can barely comprehend. Creatures evolve there that don't resemble anything on land. So the idea that something almost human could exist beneath the surface, it's not impossible, just unproven. But whether they existed or not, the story of the mermaid isn't really about biology. It's about transformation. Because in almost every version of the myth, the mermaid wasn't always what she is. She was changed, cursed, exiled, forgotten. In some tales, they were women who betrayed the gods. In others, they were victims, turned into creatures of the sea against their will. And in a few quieter stories, they chose it. They left the land behind. And that's where the story becomes something else entirely. Because if you strip away the scales, the ocean, the myth, what you're left with is a figure caught between two worlds, not fully belonging to either. Too human for the sea, too changed for the land. Imagine that for a moment. To exist in a place where you can see the world you once knew, but never return to it. To watch ships pass overhead, carrying laughter, warmth, life, while you remain beneath, unseen. To hear voices, but never be heard. To feel everything, but never be touched. Maybe that's why the songs are so powerful in the stories. Because they aren't just meant to lure, they're meant to reach. There's something deeply human about wanting to be noticed, to be understood, to be chosen. And if you've been alone long enough, even the wrong kind of attention can feel like relief. In some interpretations, the siren song doesn't just attract sailors randomly. It calls to those who are already vulnerable, the tired, the lost, the ones searching for something they can't quite name. And maybe that's why they follow. Not because they're tricked, but because, for a moment, they feel seen. There are darker versions of the myth, of course. Stories where the mermaids are not tragic, but predatory, where they deliberately lure ships to their destruction, feeding on the wreckage. But even in those versions, there's often a strange kind of sadness beneath the surface. Because creatures that destroy everything they touch usually weren't born that way. There's a Japanese legend of the ningyo, a fish-like creature whose flesh could grant immortality. But catching one was said to bring storms, misfortune, even death. In some versions, the ningyo weeps before it is captured, as if it knows what's about to happen. In parts of West African folklore, water spirits known as mami wata are both beautiful and dangerous. They offer wealth, power, desire, but always at a cost. And those who encounter them are said to return changed, not broken, but no longer entirely part of the world they left. Different cultures, different oceans, but the same idea, a being that exists just beyond reach, offering something irresistible and taking something in return. So why does this story persist? Why do we keep coming back to it? Even now, in a world of satellites and deep-sea drones and scientific explanation, why does the idea of a voice beneath the water still feel possible? Maybe it's because the ocean itself feels alive. It moves, it breathes, it hides things. And when you stand at the edge of it, especially at night, it doesn't feel empty. It feels like something is looking back. Or maybe it's because the story reflects something we don't often say out loud. That feeling of being unseen, of being misunderstood, of having parts of yourself that don't quite fit anywhere. The mermaid is beautiful, yes, but she is also alone. And not in a simple way, in a permanent, unchangeable way. And yet, she still sings. That might be the most haunting part of all. Not the danger, not the mystery, but the fact that despite everything, she still reaches out, still hopes that someone will hear her. There's an old maritime belief that hearing a siren song wasn't always a death sentence, that some sailors heard it and chose not to follow. They turned away, stayed on course, and lived. But they were never quite the same after. Because once you've heard something like that, something that feels like it understands you completely, how do you go back to ordinary life? Maybe that's the real danger. Not the rocks, not the sea, but the idea that somewhere out there, something exists that knows you better than anyone ever has, and is waiting. Whether mermaids are real or not almost doesn't matter, because the story isn't really about them. It's about us, what we long for, what we fear, what we're willing to risk just to feel something real. And maybe, somewhere deep beneath the surface, there is something listening too, waiting for the right moment, the right silence, the right person to drift just a little too close to the edge and hear it. A voice, soft, familiar, calling you by something deeper than your name. And for a second, just a second, you understand it, before the water closes over everything and the sea goes quiet again.